Hello everyone, this is Sajal Devnath, and this is the part where I'm showing the POC of autoscaling in my lab using VMware environment. Specifically, the three products that I'm going to utilize is vRealize Automation, vRealize Orchestrator, and vRealize Operations Manager. Before I go ahead, I had another 30 minutes video on the theoretical aspects of autoscaling. Please go ahead and watch that video to understand what is autoscaling, how you utilize autoscaling in your environment, and what are the things to consider before coming over to the demonstration portion. Here I'm going to showcase the details of a small implementation. Before I talk about that, a bit about my lab environment. I have a single Dell server, PowerEdge R620, and on top of the everything is built on top of that. So there's a single ESXi host, and all the other environment or everything that you see is a virtual machine. So it's my environment is nested environment. So this vCenter server, I have this physical host. Everything is a virtual machine here, and the ESXi host and the environment. So because it is nested, my environment reacts pretty slow. So please bear with me. The versions that I'm using in my lab is vRealize Automation 7.5, but the workflow that I have will work from 7.3.1 onwards, or it would work with pretty much every version that you have in your environment. So VRealize Automation 7.5, and then VRealize Operations 7.0, vCenter 6.5 update 1. That's pretty much the things that I have here. Let's go ahead and start the demonstration. So what I have did, I have this machine, this virtual machine that is deployed here, CentOS Autoscale uh, deployment. The thing is, by the way, on a side note, the 7.5 looks amazing. I really love the UI, and it's been long due. I know I keep saying this, but then this is way better than what we had earlier. So this is how it looks, a single machine, and I can see the history that has gone through here. I have done so many provisions, and then scale out, scale in, scale out, scale in. The thing that I absolutely love here is about real-time monitor and 7.5 UI itself. I want to see my CPU memory storage utilization. I can see it here, and then what's the guest ways, right? So this is how it looks uh, from solution perspective. So everything is going to get deployed from it, and then I'm going to utilize this two default out of the box actions, scale out and scale in, because they are simply there. I'm going to invoke these two action items automatically through vRealize Orchestrator. So to start, you need to come to my GitHub page and download this package, com.vmware.autoscale.package. This is the package that you need to download, and you need to come to various orchestrator, go to design mode or administrator page. It can be done from two different modes. It can go to either design mode or administrator mode. You can simply import the package that I have. I can simply click on it and package. It's going to create the structure here, auto scale, and all the associated workflows. As you can see, there are a few helper workflows, and then the total workflows are divided into three different categories: REST notification, SNMP traps if you are going to utilize that, and then VRO plugins. The REST notification, you can see that there are four workflows, because it's not only CPU and memory. I had demoed on load balancer load as well. If you have NSX in your environment, you can utilize those. For VRO plugin, I have just simply selected CPU memory load, scale up and scale down workflows. So you have these environments, the workflows ready for you. Once these are there, you need to set up a few things. uh, see, this is more interactive. So you need to set for scale up blueprint layer based on VM MOID. That's these two workflows, this and the scale down blueprint. These two are used by pretty much everyone. So you need to set the VCAC cafe host, which is your VRA appliance, and then IaaS host, and then scale out. So let me just showcase it. Yeah, so you need to, when you click on this, it would let you choose the server. So you select the server, and then IaaS host, you need to select the IaaS host, and then the scale out action operations. This one, you need to actually select the action. So you need to go to items tab here. Remember items tab, because this is applied on per deployment. So this was my deployment in VRA for which I wanted to apply auto scaling. So click on that, and then you get the actions. So you select scale out or scale in depending on what you want to do. So you need to select these variables here, set it up in VRO. Similarly for scale down, you select, but then here you select scale in, right? And that's pretty much it. You don't need to configure anything else. uh, if you want to utilize SNMP trap, then obviously you need to fill out this VCAC cafe host. For example, just show, this is the cafe host that I have, right? And then you need to configure the NSX connection. So that's detailed is there in the other blog post. So if you want to select or see SNMP traps demonstration how to configure it, then please visit my website or blog, www https://sajaldebnath.com, and here you would find how to configure auto scaling for a private cloud. That is my earlier blog post, and here I have detailed how to configure SNMP, how to handle SNMP traps, how we would handle SNMP traps, and then there's another video in which I have showcased the details on that, right? So once this is all set up, and obviously you in your VRO you will have to set up your VRA server, VRLS automation infrastructure, as well as your VRLS automation server, and then your vCenter server as well. Okay, so these are the three things that you need to configure: your VRLS automation server, IaaS host, and vCenter. Those are part of that. Okay, now let's get back to the actual demonstration, and then I'm going to showcase the two methods through which you need to send the notification. So what happens, your end users, they deploy the virtual machines through various automation, and vCenter server is monitored by VRA, and VRA is going to get that alert and send it notification. The notification sent process to VRO is going to I'm going to explain that, and that can be done two ways. As I said, VRO plugin and then REST notification. So I would showcase about VRO plugin first. There is an amazing blog by John Dias about how you can actually configure this plugin, utilize it. So first go through this link, and then the second is this link, and I'm going to give these links in the blog details. So these are the two blogs that I would suggest you to go through, and this is the management pack that I'm talking about, management pack for vRelease orchestrator. So go ahead, give it a try. It has the resources where you can get the user guide and the release notes and the pack file that you would get. Try 2.0. So this is the one that you want to utilize in your environment. So first download that pack, and then come here under solution in vRelease operations manager, select the pack, and then you can simply say install the pack and then go through the clicks, and then it would go ahead and install it. Since I have already installed it, uh, I'm not going to install the pack again. And as I said, it's detailed into this blog, so you get to see that how it's installed. Is just simply click on upload and then next, and then accept the end user license agreement, and then simply install. Once that is installed, you need to actually configure that plugin. So here is that plugin. Select that plugin here and then click on this cogwheel to configure it. You need to give it a name, give the orchestrator server host, port. Now one thing is what I have found out in 7.5 onwards, or every in the latest version 7.4 onwards, I would say VRO no longer works on 8281 or 8283. It simply works with 443. So you don't actually need to uh, give the port that's mentioned here is 8281. You don't need to give mention that port. Your port 443 simply works fine because VRO talks to port 443. So if you log into VRO client, you would see that it actually takes 443 in the later versions. So give that, and click on a test connection. If the connection is fine, it would say test connection is successful, save settings, and that's it. It should start data receiving. Now once you get this done, when you start receiving data from it, if you come to environment tab, you would see that there is one tab that's the management pack for vRelease orchestrator. Now once you come here, and it would tell you that there is no pack that is installed on the VRO server. So if you come to VRO server, you would notice that there are few no uh, workflow that has been added. One thing is vRelease or operations manager. These set of packages would be added. So you would get a notification here in vRelease operations manager, and you can simply say remediate. It is going to come here and deploy these packages here, so this should be available to you. So if you see here in vRelease operations manager, by default these two packages, com.vmware.library.vcenter and vrops out of the box content, these two packages would automatically be deployed. It would be listed here. If it's not that, it's going to show you error message. If you come back to the packages, you would see that those two packages are here. One is here and the other one you can search. But you want to include your own package. We want to include our own package, right? Because when you include my package, you're going to get this com.vmware.autoscale. So this is the package that you are going to get, and you want to scan this package, add the workflow that you want to run. So here's the trick. You select the first time you come here, you select the VRO server and then click on actions, say configure package discovery. Click on this, and then here you would see that by default these two are there. You add your own package which you want to scan for. So like you can see, I have added com.vmware.autoscale here. So you give your package, hit enter, and then say begin action. The moment you say begin action, it's going to run the scanning method, and you can always see what you are doing. To come to administration, under history and recent tasks, you would see whatever tasks that you have run. So I have seen, I can see that this uploading package, upload complete those package, and then configure package discovery. I did this package discovery. See this information com.vmware.autoscale, it did discover those packages. So you would see all that task that you have done. So you come back here, you get to see your package, and the moment the package is discovered, you would see the total number of packages and then via the workflows. So under that I can see all these packages that's here. Now the next step that I need to do, I need to associate these workflows with the type of resources against which I want to run. I can do it from two different places. The documentation, which is pretty good documentation. The documentation says that I need to, if you click on this document say go to resources and then user guides, it would tell you that you can simply open that documentation, and then it would tell you that okay, you need to open this from here, and you need to associate it from somewhere else. So it says that you need to come to administration and then configuration and then inventory explorer. You need to select adapter instances, select the vrelease orchestrator adapter instance. When you select that or select the VRO server, it's going to show you all that's there under that VRO server. So I would search by what I want, this particular workflow, and I know I want to associate this workflow. Scale up VRA deployment based on CPU memory load VRO plugin. And here I would say create or modify workflow action on vCenter resource. The first time that you would run this particular column available on resource time, this particular column would be empty, and you need to associate it. You need to select the resource type to virtual machine, and the operation is add. You just simply do add and then begin action. It would associate it. Now that is what the documentation says. The easier way of doing it is come to environment, select that management pack via the workflows. From here under the package, simply select the workflow that you want to select. So I say scale up VRA deployment based on CPU memory load VRO plugin. Select that workflow, come to actions. Here you would get the same option. So you would select resource type. I want to associate this workflow with the resource type, and any custom workflow that you want to run, you need to associate it with the resource type and then begin action. You need to do that. You can, as I said, you can track the task under history, recent tasks. Say create modify workflow, I had did that, removing workflow action and then adding workflow action, whether it completed, whether it failed, you would get to see all that information. But then remember, first thing, you need to configure, import the pack file, configure the pack file. The moment you configure the pack file, you would come here and get to see this. Select this. If you are a server, under actions, you need to configure the package discovery, and then package discovery, add your package name, begin action. Once you get that, you get to see your, you need to give it one cycle to collect the data, and then come here for your workflow, select the workflow, and then run that particular create and modify workflow action on a vCenter resource. Once you tag it, it tags it, and then you come to alerts. Next, it would be available as an action item. So after you did those steps, it would be available as an action item, and you can see this, that those two action items would be available here as an available action item. So here my configuration is nearly complete. Next thing, I'm going to define my symptoms. So depending on the triggering that you are selecting, you just select here. I have created one scale out of CPU usage is 70%, so I have come here and configured my alert. uh, I have detailed all about my alerting mechanism, how you configure alerting into this blog, in this video post, so I'm not going to too much detail into it. So you configure the symptoms, then you configure an alert as per your symptom, and then here is the trick. Here in the alert, under recommendation, you just simply search for your recommendation and then click and drag it here. So you add your recommendation here. So the moment they see, the thing is, I said this alert, whenever this alert is fired, the recommended action is scale out via deployment as per requirement, and that action that is associated with this is this, and you save this, your task is done. So your actions are there, recommendation is there, your alert definition is there, and your task is there. So the next time that alert is fired, you can actually come here and then say select any of the action, and you can then see that okay, this is my action item that I want to do. Do I want to run this action? You select okay, run this, and then action would be fired. But this is a manual intervention, right? How do I automate that? Now if you want to automate that entire task, simply come here into administration, policies, come to policy library and select the policy that is your current default policy. How do you know the default policy? You select the policies. If the priority is mentioned as D, that means that is the default policy for this. So you go ahead and edit that policy. On the left hand side you see the number 6 is alert or symptom definition. You search for your alert and I say scale out CPU. In the automate tab you see that it's inherited or not applicable, so I simply say okay, click on that and say local. That means it would automate or automatically fire this task, and this is defined in local. I would say save. So next time this alert is fired, it's automatically going to fire the job, right? So let's put it to test. Right now my deployment is such, I have this deployment. I know there's only one resource coming to vCenter server. I can see there is only one resource. Let me close this. Okay, so there's only one resource, and the resource has this IP. Okay, so here I have this server. Now I use an utility called stress ng to put stress into it. So my CPU utilization currently, as you can see, is 0.3, you know. So let me put some stress into it, and my CPU utilization is going up. So next I will just simply have to wait for this alert to fire on this particular server. Right now I don't see any alert as such. A scale down CPU is already fired because my parameters are such, it's my lab environment, so I don't really have any workflow or basically not much stress running to the server, so that's why this alert is already fired on. But then I have not automated the task so that it will not always try to scale down. So I will wait for the trigger to fire. You see, as I have started putting load on that scale down, that alert is gone. That means my server is coming under load, and that's the reason that particular alert is gone now. So we can see that this scale out CPU trigger has been fired. Let's see whether this is scaling up. I can see that this is scaling up. Workflow is fired here as well. If I come back here and then auto scale up CPU, this particular task is being carried on. Let's see in VRA. Yes, I can see that this task is in progress. So it actually fired that scale out task. So among all the three processes, I would say VR VR plugin is the most robust method because it's obviously released by VMware, so it's going to be supported by VMware, and it's inherent inside into it, and it gives me tremendous flexibility, right? So I would say this is my most favorite method because I don't have to deploy any other component for you know, translating my REST notifications. So I would really go ahead and look forward working with this, and I would suggest you go ahead and apply this if you are a plugin for various operations manager. Utilize that particular notification method. So while this is Scaling out, as I said, it's my lab environment. It's going to take some time for this mission. This mission is already being deployed, but it's going to take some time for this to be ready, uh, right? Let's meanwhile go ahead and discuss about REST notification. Though I have discussed about it in my earlier blog, let me just touch upon this. So I have um, for configuring webhook shims, you need to go to this VMware page, GitHub page for webhook shims, and then there are multiple ways you can deploy it using a Docker method, Photon OS, or manual. You can deploy a Linux machine and then manually configure it. So I have deployed a Photon OS machine where I have deployed uh, this webhook shims component. Right, so I have this machine and I've already logged down into this Photon OS machine, and I need to start automating this, start this webhook server. But before I do that, I need to disable this automated uh, notification for using VRO plugin, because I don't want to do that, because if I enable my REST notification as well as this, so it's going to fire two tasks. So let me just disable uh, the automated VRO plugin notification. Alert symptoms. So I'm going to again revert it back to inherited, which is going to disable it by default. Double check it so that I'm sure this is not going to fire another task for me. Yep, it's inherited. So I have disabled it. uh, it would still show as a recommendation and I can manually select it, but then it's not going to automatically fire this. Now for REST notification, what I need to do, I need to come to administration and management and say outbound settings. And the good thing about REST notification is it's a one-to-one relationship. So if I want to scale up, and I remember I'm sending the notification to the webhook server. I'm not going to send that notification directly to VRO server. So I'm going to send it to um, webhook shims. So I have installed this, and the thing that you need to do is under webhook shims you need to configure certain things. Let me see. Okay, you need to go to log inside demo, that particular directory, and then you need to modify this vrealize orchestrator.py file. Here you can provide your username password, your that's what works best for me. And then there are few other configurations that you need to make. The thing is, the details of it is given in this website, and then the documentation, follow the documentation. It's really explained pretty well here. And otherwise, John Dias has given he was the main developer for this, does an amazing work. So he has pretty good documentation on it. So you follow my earlier post and you would get pretty much detail on how to set it up. So just remember, you need to come here and then configure this particular file so that the authentication would work. And then under webhook shims directory you have this run server.py. So you start running that server. Okay, one thing I keep forgetting, that in Photon OS, before you do all this you need to actually stop the IP tables, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Now I need to start running. Now once this runs, I can actually go to this server and see whether it's working or not. This is HTTP. So I see that my webhooks shim server is running, right? So the server is running here. My scale out is still in progress. So let's wait for a few more time when this task is finished, and then we can. Okay, coming back here now, this is my URL. When I'm going to configure that outbound settings, you need to select the plugin type as REST notification plugin. If you first time you configure this a REST notification plugin, and then you need to give instance name, URL, username, password, all that. So let me show you. So give it a name, and then the URL is your webhook server slash, you give it a slash and then endpoint slash VRO. Till this point it's pretty much a constant, and then you give the workflow UUID. How do you identify the UUID? Now if I come here, I know under REST notification I want to run this uh, scale up via deployment load based on CPU. I want that when that particular notification is fired, I want this particular workflow to run. So you select this workflow, come to general, and then here you would see that there's this ID. So you need to copy and paste it over here. This is where the trick is. So this becomes your URL, and then content type is application JSON. You need to select this. This is application JSON. Similar goes for scale down. Here my scale down, I wanted to run this particular workflow scale down based on CPU memory, and I had copied over the ID from here to here. Okay, so this is the first step. After configuring webhook shims, this is the first thing that you do: outbound settings. Next you need to come to alerts. Setting up your symptoms and alerts is pretty much same. You configure your symptoms, you configure your alerts, but then here under notifications you set out notification for each and every one. See, for example, scale out CPU, I gave it a name, and then method is REST notification plugin. The moment you select REST notification plugin, it will show you what are the outbound settings that's there. This is the outbound settings that you configure. So you select the outbound setting, and then filtering criteria, that becomes very important. I say my scope is object type is a virtual machine, so I'm applying to all the virtual machine that is exhibiting this particular behavior. Otherwise I can simply select the object as well, a single object. I can select an object, right? Say I can simply select the object and then say okay, go ahead and select this, but I wanted to select it as an object type, and then wanted to apply to all the virtual machines. Next, I need to select what is my notification trigger. I can select as per type, impact, or definition. Since I have defined an alert, I'm going to select that alert. Scale down CPU, scale out CPU. This is what I'm going to select. So I'm going to scale out CPU. Now my criticality should be critical, then only this should fire. So I'm notifying that when I should get notified. So when the criticality is critical, then it's going to fire. The alert state should be open, alert status should be new, and collector group I can select. So if I have a pretty big environment, multiple collectors in place, so for individual collectors or individual environment I can select individual notification. That's what I can do, right? So I have selected my notification, and then scale down CPU, similar thing. I say scale down CPU, and then alert definition is there. It's just that it's my environment, so only when I manually select the suspended state it gets suspended, otherwise it doesn't. Suspended, then only it gets fired, otherwise not. So my environment is set for REST notification, right? And here I can see that my task was finished as well. I had another scale out operation. So I have this machine. So let's stress it again to fire up another operation, scale out operation, but this time we want to see that instead of VRO plugin, we want to get my scale up VRO deployment. That's the one that I want to mm, get going. It seems that while I was talking, there was another scale out operation that already happened because my stressor was running. So another scale out operation happened and I got notifications here. So scale out is in progress, and you can see that the task that is happening is here. Okay, so our scale out operation is done. So I can see they have three resources now available to me. Now let's go ahead and start a scale down operation. So let's suspend this. As per my setting, it can be anything, it just needs to be suspended. So when I suspend it, there's a trigger that should be fired from here, and then the scale down operation should start. This is my earlier notification. Sorry, not this one. Yeah, this is something else. So this scale down operation is going on. So if I come back here, I can see that scale in is in progress. So this scale in is from rest notification that I have here. So I can see that the scale down operation is going on, and it should finish. Just I can see this what there was three missions that were deployed. One, two, three. They are distributed across the three clusters. It's just wait for this scaling to happen, and then we would see the scaling from VRO plugin. Okay, so one of the machines were scaled in, one, two, and let's try and initiate the scaling from VRO plugin. As I said, that action is defined, so I just simply had to manually select run action because I have not automated it. So I would say run action. This is the machine, so I would say begin action, and it would give me a token, and I can see it from recent tasks. The recent task says administration, and then recent tasks. I can see that this is in progress. This task is in progress, so I can monitor it from here. If I have access to it, I can see it under here. So you see that this is under VRO plugin. So this particular workflow that is initiated. So I know that this task has been fired by utilizing the VRO plugin, not the REST plugin. REST plugin would start this scale down. This is this scale down. I come to various automation and I see that the scaling in is in progress. So this is exactly how I can automate the you know scale out, scale in. I can simply could select that scale up or scale in as well, or scale down as well. So this is the demonstration of the theory. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, do let me know and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you all for listening patiently to me. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day and a happy new year. Bye bye.